Welcome back to Bricks and Trips, and there's had to be a few changes in the LEGO theme park already. You may notice that we are missing a certain LEGO loop coaster and a fair few base plates. That's the joys of when you work in a garage and your boiler needs servicing. So after we've got all these bits and pieces back in place, I'll take you through what we're going to do today. And I am so glad that this was all modular. This was so quick to get back together. And we are back to where we started. Thank goodness. Some of those pieces are a little bit tricky to get in, but that is what happens when you're working with LEGO. It is a tight-fitting thing. So, what are we moving on to today? Well, obviously I've only just raised Hogwarts up, and one of my big goals as part of this project is to make it look like Hogwarts is sitting on top of a mountain. And I don't have enough pieces for a mountain just yet, but we can get it started. And it's really important this phase, because once I understand how much I've got, it'll help me to understand how much I need to get. Because I have recently acquired some more of these lovely big ugly rock panels, one of the LEGO Builder's finest tools. And I'm going to be using these to hopefully build up some kind of rock face to head up towards Hogwarts Castle. But the real limitation that I've got here is a massive limitation on space. So the first thing I've got to do is work out how I'm going to build around this loop coaster, because I want the back half of this track all in tunnels, and then I've got to work out at what angle I'm going to be able to get up all the way up to this point here. And as you can see, this Hogwarts Castle is a significant way up. I mean, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the crane elements, plus about another 8 bricks at the bottom as well. It is so high up off the ground. Even if I were to try and build this up as a sheer rock face with the big ugly rock panels, well, you are still talking about 7 rock panels high. And for those that don't know, these are one of the most expensive pieces that you can buy on LEGO. They're about £2 per panel. And I don't know about you, but I do not fancy spending £14 just to get that effect in my LEGO theme park. Instead, what I really want to try to do is incorporate the railway tunnel which used to be here to give me a bit of additional height, but also to allow me to utilise more than just the big ugly rock panels, so I don't end up with a really angular structure at the end of it. I want this to be quite a natural looking mountain face. Hopefully we'll be able to get somewhere around a base complete today, but again, we've still got the loop coaster problem, because I definitely want my rock face to be incorporating the back half of this track. And in fact, I've already got a couple of guides for height that I've pre-made. These are just some long stacks of 2x4 brick, and basically if I need to get some clearance on here, I need the furthest edge on this side to be right at the front. I can get a column directly in the back of here, which still gives me some room for one of the carts to go through. And I also need some clearance at the back as well, because I still got to get the train to go through the tunnel as well. And just so that you can see, I mean, these are probably 15 bricks high on their own, and I'm trying to get another stack up next to that red pipe as well, which I'm still going to have to build around as well. I hadn't even thought about that. And in fact, something that I have not yet tested is the height that I need for the Disney train. Because you might not know this, but the Disney train is one of the tallest LEGO trains that they've ever produced because of the smokestack on the top of it. So when this thing is going around, you need plenty of clearance to make sure that you're not going to hit anything en route, such as the loop coaster, which it just hit. Let's just shimmy that a little bit. I think there's going to be an awful lot of very, very delicate engineering when I'm putting this thing together. And so, let's just have a quick look. I think this is probably going to be about the right height. Promise I haven't test fitted this first. And that is about as much clearance as I'm going to be able to use at the back. And I think this is actually a really sensible time to bring in my old railway tunnel, because that's going to give me a really good idea of how far back or how far forwards I can actually bring this rock face. And just to be clear, this railway tunnel will definitely be changing as well, but I also don't want to be ripping things apart when there's really nothing functionally wrong with it at this point. You know, it's just that I want to make some little tweaks to how the overall thing looks. You know, we are going to make some fairly substantial changes to this park at some point, but things like this, which I was already happy with the original look of them, I don't want to just go ripping out immediately and making, you know, massive changes, because ultimately there's a lot of good groundwork in there. It just needs a little bit tweaking for what I actually want it to look like moving forwards. Whilst we can retain some of these things, we may as well retain them, and hopefully, like I say, it'll give me a really good understanding of where I need to go with this theme park moving forwards, because there are little bits, like now, where for some reason it doesn't seem level anymore. You see, it's got a little bit of a wobble, and that never used to be the case. But I think maybe we might have an extra tile here that's ended up in the wrong place. Yeah, I think that is what it is, because that was originally baked into that piece of track there, and these went directly under it just here. And one sideways, because when I started building this, I didn't have any 1x1 bricks, so I was making do with what I had. But if we just try and, knock that back down onto there again, it feels like it might have connected, and I've got some good connections on the back of it as well. And I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it, but there is a little bit of daylight under those bricks there. So when I actually get to placing this down properly, I will put a line of tiles underneath there, or possibly plates, depending on how well it needs to be tacked down. But I think this actually gives you a really good scale of what we're working with here. So that entire space that I want to cover with mountain pretty much starts here, down at the corner, and rises all the way up. So we are talking around 40 bricks of height that we've got to cover in about a base plate and a half, whilst also trying to maximise as much level space here so that I can possibly add one more attraction on top of this tunnel. I think let's start by putting some of these big ugly rock panels down and seeing how far we can get with what we've got, just to give an approximate idea of how this is going to be shaped. So I thought I'd start out by just putting some of the rock panels down. I very quickly realised that I am going to need some additional bricks for it as well, but this gives a really good idea of sort of a first impression of what this is going to look like. And this really is such a trial and error process. You might see me pushing the little roller coaster forwards and backwards constantly through the gaps, and it's really because the roller coaster isn't fixed in place yet. And I don't know if I'm actually going to fix the roller coaster in place or if I'm just going to build up around it instead. Only a couple of weeks ago I was talking about the importance of making sure that all of my base plates were individual modules rather than being combined enormous things. And in starting this mountain, I've realised just what a difficult task I have undertaken. How I've got it so far is that this left-hand side is totally disconnected from the right-hand side of this tower. But I'm not quite sure how I'm going to deal with a disconnect on this corner as well, because I need to encroach onto this base plate, because otherwise I'm just not going to have the room. And my only other idea is something that I really don't want to do either, which is moving this train tunnel back by about another 4 studs. Because my issue here is that whilst I do need a large opening for the tunnel, because the train's coming around the corner as it exits, I actually don't need such a large main section. This could probably be maybe 12 to 15 studs across instead of the 20 or so that I've got at the moment. And it is worth saying that this is really only trial fitting at this point. I mean, you can just about see the brickwork at the back of here. This is definitely not the final solution for this area, but I need to have an understanding of how it's going to look and how much it's going to interact with my roller coaster, how it's going to look in front of the castle. And I think even from just using the 6 rock panels that I've used so far, I can see that it's going to be able to get up to the height. The height is not as much of an issue as I thought it was going to be. But what I'm really going to have issues with is the modularity of it all. So now I'm left in quite a predicament. Do I continue on knowing that I don't have enough pieces and I'm not really sure how I'm going to make this all modular, or do I just stop here and now? And I really don't want to stop yet because, well, I've got loads more pieces that I could use. I just don't know that it's the right way of doing it. And this is the problem when you've never built a Lego mountain before. You don't even know where to start. I do know that there is plenty of YouTube channels out there who have done a lot of work building Lego mountains, but every one of them has been a little bit unique. And uniqueness is the issue that we're all going to face. So I think before I start committing to really fixing these things down, I need to mentally commit to fixing the loop coaster in place. Because once I've done that, it is going to allow me to have a very good understanding of exactly how much space I've got, even if that does mean moving it again. This is the problems when you're trying to work on a theme park which is just probably not big enough. You know, I'm trying to scrape for every stud that I can get in every area that has anything left. You know, it might not look it when you're doing these sort of wide shots, but this loop coaster is actually on quite an angle for this theme park, and I do look at it and think, well, maybe the solution to all of my problems is to just straighten it up. But if I do show you that just for a moment, I'll leave you down just there, you'll see the issue that we encounter. And it's not just the fact that I've put 2x4 bricks in the way, but by straightening it up as much as it needs to, whilst still giving the train adequate breathing room, it actually brings it right up next to the Disney Castle, and with an enormous overhang on the back side of it, which is all wasted space. And we simply cannot afford wasted space in a theme park of this size. And I'm going to look to you guys for a little bit of help on this. What would you do? Do you keep the loop coaster on the angle and then have to work some serious Lego brain power to make it work? Or do you just give up and lose the space? I'm really stuck. And in fact, I'm so stuck that I think that's where I'm going to leave it for today. So please do let me know down below. If you've got a better idea than putting it on an angle or leaving it straight, let me know. And we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.